It's your right, not just a privilege, to have a diverse source of information over the airwaves. That's the legal cornerstone of the FCC's regulation of media ownership since before the creation of the FCC in 1927. But now it seems that some are forgetting that. But you know, there was a great word uttered by Thomas Jefferson that freedom requires our eternal vigilance to defend. And we hear a lot of talk about promoting freedom and democracy around the world these days. But what about improving the quality of freedom and democracy right here in Austin, right here in Texas? As President Rosales said, you know, the game's on now. The FCC a couple months ago put on the new media ownership rules for you all to review and comment on. And the hearing we're engaged in today is going to be part of that record. So it's, to me, almost like you have a live grenade and somebody pulled the pin. And now it's time for all of us to disarm it. Because we can't afford to allow further media consolidation without considering the views of people here in Austin. We can't afford to let the media environment that you experience every day become even more degraded. All across the country, I hear from people that they're sick and tired of being deluged by the violence, hypersexuality, and rampant commercialism on the media. And I'd like to know how you view it here in Austin. We may well allow big media getting bigger unless you talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your community, organize, and have an impact on media consolidation. And I know it's possible to do that because it happened before. The FCC attempted the largest rollback of media protection rules in the history of American broadcasting in 2003. And because there was an uprising from the American people, we were able to stop that cold in its tracks. 3 million people weighed in. We had Congress and Senate on a bipartisan basis voted to overturn it. We had the courts, ultimately, the biggest weapon, put the entire ruling in 2003 on ice and sent it back to the FCC. And this time, we better get it right. But what we've done is not off to an auspicious start, because we essentially, when we put out those rules for comment, we said it's a blank check for the majority to do whatever they want. We said, basically, what do you think of media consolidation? And we can take that broad, open-ended public notice and allow massive consolidation. I think the public has a right to know the specific details of the proposal before it's finalized. Now, you got to demand that right. But the courts found last time that we didn't do a reasoned analysis, and everybody virtually agreed with us. I mean, people from the right to the left and everybody in between, from LULAC and NAACP to the NRA, everybody weighed in and said, this is a bad idea. So we have our work cut out for us to make sure that doesn't happen again. I mean, we are supposed to promote 3 things: localism, diversity, and competition. And we really failed on all 3 fronts. Let's talk about localism for a second. There was a study that found that less than 1% of all local TV programming nationwide is really community public affairs. What's happening? What are your local officials doing? What are your federal officials doing? But 14.4% was paid programming, like infomercials. So we may be getting strong abs, but we're getting a flabby democracy. Now, just this last week, some of you might have read in the paper that we learned that the FCC failed to disclose to the public 2 important studies that counseled against the FCC Media Ownership Rules that somehow, magically, it wasn't so magical, because somebody at the FCC told our staff to destroy every single copy of that study so the public can't see it, even though it was done at public expense, paid for by the taxpayers. And one of those studies, for example, found that local ownership really matters. The study found that local owners of television stations provided more local news than stations that were owned by absentee landlords that weren't part of the local community. No wonder somebody wanted to bury it. Of course, to you and me, that's common sense, but to some people, they're not listening to common sense. They're listening to what these giant media companies tell them they need to do. And we all know what's happening in studies. Other studies document the loss of TV coverage of local news and public affairs, and it doesn't really do justice to us.